Hi, here I wanted to briefly discuss predictive programming, a term which has been floating around recently a lot. It was a term introduced by Alan Watt, not Watts, as a form of subtle psychological conditioning provided by the media, film industry, and governments to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented, to introduce these concepts by subliminal messaging, to familiarize people with them, to accept them as natural progression, lessening the public's resistance and commotion. Shows and movies often mentioned in this context are The Simpsons, The Dark Knight Rises, and The Hunger Games. So generally the idea of predictive programming is dismissed as conspiracy theory. However, resorting to this term suggests that the discussion about something is attempted to be quickly shut down to avoid having to deal with certain topics. However, more recently, there seems to be another purpose of predictive programming beyond a bit of nudging, and that is to create a wide polarization and confusion. So here I wanted to discuss three very recent examples of predictive programming, which I will call psychological conditioning, to use a more neutral term. They are so blatant, so significant in my opinion, that they seem to be a start signal of bigger events to come. Hence it's worth discussing them. So the first is about Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, member of the British royal family and wife of Prince William. She recently came out with her cancer diagnosis, but it happened in such a way that it created immense confusion. Some adore her for being so open and frank, others view it as a deep fake and cover for something else. For instance, that she's not alive anymore, that she will make a miraculous recovery and promote a new anti-cancer drug, or that she and other members of the royal family went into seclusion to cover up that they moved already to the doomsday bunker. So a lot of different possibilities here. However, this confusion seems to be completely desired. Recently, she admitted to have manipulated a Mother's Day photo she posted. So UK Mother's Day is in March, not May. And she provided a ridiculous excuse that she played around with Photoshop. The official story was that it was part of her cancer cover-up, but as nothing so amateuristic will be done by the super powerful and insanely rich royal family, this just drew more attention to the coming out video. It nudged people to think it is fake too, and so caused immense confusion. AI tools apparently showed that it is a fake. Kate looks eerily still, even though the illumination seems to change in the video, presumably because of clouds. There are even birds chirping, and an insect is flying by, and some hairs are moving and curling up even. However, our intuition tells us this is fake. The cherry on top of the cream is the fact that she's wearing the same or very similar looking sweater from 7 years ago. The video from the Heads Together campaign could in fact have been used to train AI to make the new deepfake video. The coming out video looks eerily creepy, and I think people are supposed to feel that. It's like a bad omen. The second is indeed from the same day, 22nd of March, which is a mass shooting and bombing at the Crocus Concert Hall in Moscow, which caused the death of more than 140 people and the collapse of the roof even. Social media was flooded with comparisons with Christopher Nolan's movie Tenet, where in the opening scene we see a shooting and bombing at a concert hall. While I personally would not have seen that connection, just the flooding of social media with this comparison creates eeriness and confusion. Like a dam broke, and all hell breaks loose now. This confusion seems totally intended, and I'm contributing to it in a way with my video. Also, I do it for educational reasons. It is tasteless to compare a Hollywood movie with a massacre, but it makes a point that we get numb, that we don't think about how horrific these crimes are, and instead think about the meaning of it, and in a way accept it as the new normality we now have to deal with. The third is the cargo ship Dali hitting and destroying the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge and killing a few people. The Key Bridge, you can't make this up, the name, is key for infrastructure, interstate commerce, and international freight movement. Due to the impact this will have for years, It may well be the last straw leading to the collapse of the financial markets and US economy. But instead of public outrage, as it seems deliberately planned and perfectly executed for maximal destruction and the total collapse of the bridge, as can be seen in the video, the public seems complacent. There even seem to be small explosions on the bridge cables. And considering the many fail-safes built into modern shipping industry, it seems nearly impossible that something like that could happen. So here's the idea that the recently Obama co-produced movie Leave the World Behind aided this process. In that movie we see a ship, and also planes later, losing orientation due to a cyber attack and crashing. By seeing movies like that, it seems acceptable or plausible that such things can happen. And when they happen, they don't seem to be such a big deal anymore. They are less disruptive, as we are psychologically conditioned. Even speculating that this might be predictive programming adds a certain level of excitement to some. The sequence of these three major events in succession seems to be a major signal of some sort. The end of tradition, with the royal family having cancer, the end of culture, the concert hall massacre, and the end of economic stability, the key bridge collapse. 3 is a kind of magic number. It's like a signal standing out from the noise. To make this point stronger, here's a clip from the 1997 movie Contact, where the character played by Jodie Foster discovers a signal by aliens using radio telescopes, the very large array in New Mexico. We see the signal in form of 3 peaks. They call it a strong sucker. It seems to follow the principle: 1 is a fluke, 2 is a coincidence, and 3 is a pattern. It's a bit misleading as the 3 peaks are in the frequency domain, not in the time domain. The frequency spectrum is symmetric, so the left and right peak are the same, and the 0 frequency peak is just due to background noise. So this is really a single frequency signal. But cinematographically, we see 3. So when they actually build the machine to travel via a wormhole and she reaches a distant planet or place in the galaxy, she's actually told that she sees the alien race in the shape of her dad she admired and lost as a child. And the beach scene is from her painting as a child too. She's told that this is to make it easier for her, to make it more acceptable, so that she does not need to deal with the confusion seeing a real, strange-looking alien. So the idea of psychological conditioning is everywhere really, and is not only used in TV ads. So I wouldn't simply believe this is a conspiracy theory. Not after the last 4 years, certainly. It is also used in learning theory and machine learning to extract useful information from data, especially in Bayesian computation. And it is also how we think our brain works. And it also shows that probabilities are subjective and influenced by prior information. While the details are beyond my understanding and quite mathematical, the key formula is Bayes' theorem, which aims to calculate the probability of a model, for instance to explain the world or events in the world, and its parameters given some data. This is a conditional probability, and it's simply expressed by the joint probability on the right of model and data divided by the probability of observing the data. It's a kind of normalization. As a joint probability can be written in 2 different ways in form of conditional probabilities, we can also rewrite it in the second line. So the probability of the data given the model is also called the likelihood, and the probability of the model is a bit of a vague factor, and it is also called the prior. So the prior information very much influences how possible a model is given the data. The likelihood of the data given a model is introduced because it's much easier to calculate than the posterior on the left, as we can take a model and simply calculate how well the data matches it, for instance through the sum of squared residuals. But again, the math is a little bit beyond me. The point I'm trying to make is that the prior has a strong influence on the outcome. It makes learning a model of how the world might work subjective. So if we have seen gigantic ships in movies losing control and driving into a beach, it influences you, whether you want it or not. You can't unlearn it, you can't unsee it, and how you perceive the world. It influences you whether you want it or not. So that's the left side of the equation. And whether you think a cargo ship hitting a key bridge pillar is something which can happen or not. There are 2 aspects to it. leading to polarization. The first one is the movie shows the unobservant person that so things can happen, and two, to the observant person that it was likely a deliberate event, and as downplayed by the US government and media, leads to cognitive dissonance and a signal, a sign that our economy is deliberately destroyed, that we are already in World War III. Sometimes you hear criticism of predictive programming beyond the simple dismissive term conspiracy theory, that it makes no sense in light of first social learning theory, that we acquire new behavior by observing and imitating others like adults, mainly our parents as children, and not by watching a movie. And second, why would governments want to warn us, for instance by the movie The Hunger Games? Why not keep it a secret if they really want to implement a totalitarian government? Both these can be countered by the hero's journey, which is an attractive concept. The Hunger Games society is introduced as part of an enjoyable movie experience. Yes, while a totalitarian government is a bad thing, it also shows that it forces people to rise up to the challenge, to start a hero's journey, to ultimately overcome the hardship. So oddly, we associate something positive, feelings of excitement and thrill, with some really bad and tragic things. So it's all a matter of perspective, or prior knowledge in terms of Bayes theory. Of course, I'm now very interested in reading your comments on how you see recent events. Are they just tragic coincidences, or do they signal the beginning of the end of society? As usual, thank you for watching and I hope you liked my analysis. Talk to you next time. Bye.